Even villains can have heroic pursuits, despite turning to a life of crime to achieve their goals, and some are just simply misguided. These are villains that Batman often struggles to condemn 100% because, well, in a way, they've earned his respect. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Join me as we count down the top 10 villains that Batman respects Part 2, and if you missed out on Part 1, be sure to check that part out for even more respectable Bat villains after this. Now, let's get into it. Number 10. Bat-Mite. Although Batman might often declare that he finds Bat-Mite to be a nuisance, in some respects he must admire the heroic imp-like creature. Bat-Mite was implied to be the image taken by the manifestation of Batman's rational mind. Bat-Mite isn't really so much a villain as he is a trickster who often means well but instead brings about chaos wherever he goes. He has both done much ill and much good for Batman and the Bat family in the past. However, Batman usually was not one to appreciate even the good that Bat-Mite did, as it was often part of Bat-Mite attempting to fix his own wrongdoings. Still, in some regards, Batman must see that Bat-Mite really is just a big fan that means well, based on his mind's manifestation, or potentially Bat-Mite was actually created or resides in Batman's imagination, which should also in theory lead him to getting some respect. Well, at least you'd think. I would respect things that I created out of my own imagination. Number 9. Arkham Knight. While Astrid Arkham hasn't been a major player in the comics yet, she did make a pretty memorable appearance in the Future State line, and it inspired me to go back and take a look at her earlier appearance in the main continuity in Detective Comics. Batman hasn't had a ton of time to really get to know and cross paths with Arkham Knight as she appears in the comics, but it seems based on his reactions and his fight with her in Detective Comics issues 1005 that he sees her as a sympathetic figure. She was basically lied to and in essence kind of brainwashed against Batman, with her whole life and the people and friends that she made growing up at Arkham making her see Batman as Gotham's main villain as opposed to its savior. Batman believes that Astrid is just misguided, and I bet he even has considered that were her perspective shifted, she could possibly make a strong ally. I personally would love to see a team up with Arkham Knight and Batman, I don't know about you. Astrid is a formidable foe who does what she does because she sees herself as the hero of Gotham who must defeat Batman in order to save the city and save its people. Sometimes you gotta save people by blinding them, you know what I mean? It's all in a hero's work, I guess. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, if you are loving this list, if you want more Bat lists, if you want to talk more about Batman villains, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. And check out our Batman playlist for even more Bat videos. Is that a thing people say? Now it's a thing. Number 8. Deadshot. These two teamed up together after Deadshot was contracted to kill Bruce Wayne, with his daughter being held hostage as leverage to make sure he completed that contract. Instead of doing so though, Deadshot decided to try and team up with Batman to save his daughter. Aw, I love it. Deadshot even promised Batman that he would not kill anyone during the rescue mission. And later, when he was forced to break his promise due to his daughter's life being in immediate danger, Deadshot surrendered to Batman. He asked Batman to make sure his daughter was safe and actually agreed to go to jail for breaking his promise and killing someone. Deadshot may be a lot of things, but he is also an honorable man, and it is because of this that he earned Batman's respect. I admire that. I love that he's like, I broke the promise, I killed someone, I'll go to jail. That's only fair. Number 7. Katana. Katana was a member of Black Lightning's Outsiders team and through them ended up teaming up with Batman in the New 52 continuity. But way before that, when she went by a slightly different name as the New Earth version of the character, she was also part of the original Batman and the Outsiders team in volume number 1 of the series. Despite being a member of the Suicide Squad, Katana has mostly been a good or neutral figure. But it's her ties to the Suicide Squad, a team made up of villains primarily for the most part, that allows us to loosely consider her a villain for this list's sake. Okay, I know Katana's not a villain. I know you're all gonna come and you're all gonna say, Katana's not a villain, she's a really good person. I agree with you, but you know, she's at least an anti-hero. She kills people, right? Like, can we at least give her that? So yes, as I said, Katana is good, but she's not against killing people, and at the very least, that would make her an anti-hero. But at the end of the day, she always aims to do what's right and has a ton of honor. Add in that she's a badass who is extremely skilled when it comes to sword fighting and martial arts, having been trained in the ways of a samurai, and it's easy to see how she earned Batman's respect. The only reason she's ranked so low on this list is because, well, she's really more of a hero than a villain most days. I need to just do a Katana list. I just think she's so cool. Have we done a list on her before? I don't know. We need to do that if that hasn't happened. Number 6. Deathstroke. Despite everything that Slade Wilson has done to Batman and the Bat family in the past, Batman still respects the guy. Why? Well, because Deathstroke is really good at what he does, and that Batman can respect. Now when it comes to Deathstroke's work, what he gets done as a mercenary and hired assassin, Batman can't really get behind that as much. So although these two usually end up at odds with one another, they typically move to defeat each other without any fatalities. Now I'm just thinking of Mortal Kombat. At the end of the day, if Batman could figure out a way to bring Wilson over to the good side, he would do so in a heartbeat. Deathstroke is an amazingly skilled fighter. Batman just wishes he would give up the hired killer life. Deathstroke, on the other hand, also admires Batman, but wishes, he'd stop trying to interfere in all his business. He's just trying to do his job, If these two could see eye to eye, and on the rare occasion that they do see eye to eye, they'd make a strong team. Number 5. Bane. Bane is one of those villains that Batman can actually level with. Despite the fact that Bane is a villain who is so iconically known for his defeat of Batman, I also think that part of Batman's respect for Bane plays into the fact that Bane is one of the few villains that was able to defeat him. Batman respects Bane's strength, and I think also sympathizes with the fact that Bane struggled all throughout his youth, growing up in a harsh prison environment ever since he was little, just because of the crimes of his father. Not very fair. Bane believes in making things better for his country, and even almost succeeded in helping his nation politically. He also respects Batman back in his own way, attempting to break Batman a few years ago, but this time with the intention of building him back up. Like, breaking him to make him stronger. You know what I mean? If you love someone, sometimes you gotta break their back and then kill their butler and, make sure they don't get married. I don't know, it's a weird relationship. Number 4. Red Hood. Red Hood is a villain that Batman kind of has to respect, since he was once his young protege, Robin. Jason Todd may go on to become a villain, but even though Batman may not agree with his methods, there is still a lot there for Batman to admire and respect in him. Jason Todd grows up to be a masterful combatant, but besides that, he is also deep down still that headstrong youth that Batman decided to take under his wing. When it comes to Batman's feelings about Jason Todd and Red Hood, there is a lot of pride and a lot of guilt mixed together there, as Batman feels responsible for Jason going down that darker path, but can also appreciate at times the man that Jason Todd has grown into today, especially as while he was once a villain, he's more an anti-hero now, and continuously works towards redemption as he wrestles with his morals and his past. Number 3. Azreal. Despite the fact that Azreal ended up as a villain, Jean-Paul Valley was originally one of the first folks that Batman thought to turn to after Bane broke his back, leaving him unable to take up the mantle of Batman. In the end, of course, this would be a mistake, and Batman would end up having to fight and defeat him in order to get the title and the mantle back, but Batman didn't choose him because he had no one else to turn to. He initially thought that Azreal would make a good replacement because he respected him so much. It just turns out that wasn't a great call. You know what I mean? Number 2. Mr. Freeze. You all thought that I forgot Mr. Freeze when I did my part 1 of this list, but no. I did not forget my boy Freezy. I was just saving him for the potential part 2 that is now here. Also, I know no one calls Mr. Freeze Freezy, but I want it to be a thing, so can we make it a thing? The good news is that me saving him for this list means that he gets to qualify for a top spot. Yay! Mr. Freeze obviously has Batman's respect because of the why behind his criminal plots and his plans. The most memorable of which, and the one we're of course talking about here, being his wife Nora. Nora Freeze is the whole reason that Mr. Freeze commits crimes. It's all to try and raise enough money to fund his research to find a cure for the life-threatening disease she suffers from. Mr. Freeze hopes to find a cure and then thaw his wife, who he cryogenically froze to keep her alive, which resulted in the accident that granted him his unique physiology and powers. In the animated universe, although Batman apprehends Mr. Freeze and gets him sent to Arkham Asylum, he also helps to get Ferris Boyle arrested for his crimes, whom Freeze wanted revenge on, blaming him for Nora's ongoing tragic fate. And in the film Batman and Robin, after defeating Mr. Freeze, Batman reveals to him that they managed to stabilize his wife Nora after Poison Ivy attempted to kill her, and he even promises to move Nora to Arkham, where Freeze will be held, so he can continue his research, after Freeze helps him with the cure for Alfred. I like that he appeals to his better nature, because Batman's like, look, Mr. Freeze, you weren't always a bad dude, you're kind of a cool guy, we can figure this out. Also, that whole part where he takes a knee and then you think he's gonna like ask him to marry him. I don't know if I was the only person that got that feeling in that movie, but this feels like a marriage proposal thing. Does anybody ship Batman and Mr. Freeze? Let me know in the comments below. Number 1. Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva almost instantly earned the respect of Batman through proving herself a formidable foe and one that could handily beat the hero, if given the chance of course. It was Lady Shiva that Bruce Wayne turned to after his back had been broken by Bane, and he needed to regain his strength in order to return to Gotham and take back the mantle of Batman. Lady Shiva agreed to help train Bruce, which shows that despite the fact that these two have opposing alignments, that they both respect one another. Who do you think are some villains and anti-heroes who are respected by the Batman? Which villains would you love to see Batman team up with in the future? Or which are some of your favorite team-ups from the past? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.